Obviously, it's right that the state steps in to try to remedy the situation for people in a horrendous place. But equally, it's right that the Exchequer should be compensated by those who, supplied dangerous material, particularly when they did so for profit. I'm returning to the issue of what measures are going to be taken in the subrogation issue. The Minister said that this was a priority in recovering money for the Exchequer was a priority in November. Since then, that season came to a close and 2 more seasons have passed. And a senior council, terms of reference haven't even been drafted, and a senior council, nobody's been appointed to look at it. One of the big issues, of course, is statutes of limitations around this. So, whatever chance there was of recovering money if you move speedily, I would have to suggest respectfully to you that this elapse of time doesn't reflect any sense of urgency on the part of your department.
I understand what you're saying to us. I can tell you that the sense of urgency in the department has been demonstrated by the speed with which this bill has come to pass, which I think has been on a timeline that I haven't seen before myself. The department are doing everything it can to progress all of the measures that the government agreed in November, and we have been working in the background in relation to senior council reviewing this matter. However, I think it'll just take a little bit more time for us to get there, and we want to get that right. So I suppose just to bear with us on that.
You suggested earlier that senior council wouldn't be appointed until the bill was passed. I mean, is there not? Can the two issues not travel in tandem? I mean, is there there's more than one person working on this in the department, I would assume?
Yes, there are, absolutely, but the focus currently is on getting this done as quickly as possible, and we will turn to that as soon as we can, Deputy, because I'm not in any way negating what you're saying. You're right, it's very important that we pursue that point.
On the issue then of because time is limited, on the issue of subrogation, if somebody has a claim, for example, of a breach of contract claim would be to put the person back in the position they would have been in had there not been a breach, had dangerous material and substandard material not been provided. So say there's a claim for 250,000 euros and the person gets an ex gratia payment from the state of 200. Is their entire claim subrogated, or is it only the amount, is it subrogated to the limit of what the Minister has provided in the ex gratia payment?
I'm currently, I think, as is constitution, the bill is to the limit of the grant. Okay. At the moment, yes.
Okay, and then you said that I asked earlier, in the very limited time available at the end of Deputy O'Callaghan's thing, time slot, not a thing. My apologies. How you'd know if there was a claim, and you said, well, if there is a claim, you have to notify the Minister. But if there's a subrogation clause, there's no incentive for people to ascertain, to take legal advice. And of course legal advice isn't free, it costs money. So why would somebody go to a solicitor to say, well, I've pyrite, is there a realistic prospect, do I have a claim or do I not, if there's a subrogation clause? They're not going to do that realistically. So essentially what you're doing is transferring the risk that all of those quarries have of being sued, transferring that onto the Exchequer, and there is no mechanism that I'm aware of, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm inviting you to tell me that there will be a mechanism in place to see if each, or if the individual persons who receive a grant, if there's a case that can be taken on their behalf against the quarries.
Yeah. So obviously if they do take a case, as we've noted, the subrogation would allow the state to step into the shoes if they have taken a case, and I think to your point that there's no incentive for them to do that. We'll take that away and look at it maybe in relation to that point, but obviously it's the state's intention to pursue wrongdoers insofar as we can. It's something that I will have to just examine a little bit further, perhaps back with the advice of the Attorney General in relation to the points that you're making, and see if there's a particular position on it. But I won't do that today, if that's okay, Deputy, because we simply haven't reached a position on it.
Yeah, but you will come back, because I think it would be obscene if the state is going to pay out 3 billion euros and the only recovery mechanism is a levy on the industry, generally those who complied and those who didn't comply equally. And in any event, all of that levy will be transferred on to homeowners and future homeowners, and indeed people who are rebuilding their homes because of the pyrite claim in the first place. And if the wrongdoers, and there were some of them named earlier, one of them is one of the biggest construction companies in Ireland, CRH.
I don't think they were named.
They were.
Were they?
They were, yeah. And there were others named. But
They are now, yes.
yeah, I mean, that's a company with deep pockets.
Your point is made, Deputy, and just in relation to that, just to reiterate that.
And a company that I would assume has, insures its products pretty well, has underwriters. We're not talking necessarily small limited companies that might disappear overnight. I mean, there are big companies out there who are providing materials that are alleged to be, maybe they'll defend those claims, all of the claims that are against them, but that are alleged to be dangerous, and it would be horrendous if the state is the only entity that's going to pick up any of the tab for this.
Yeah. And I think government has committed, both in November, that
And
to the
nothing has
pursuit
happened
of the
since.
wrongdoers, and that point I think has already been answered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just